sure. It's just a crushing, well, not necessarily a crushing blow to the Steelers, but it's a crushing blow to the fan base for Pittsburgh, if nothing else. Because again, they were the number one offense in all of football last year, and their O-line seems to have only gotten better. Their defense seems to be a little bit better. So, it's unfortunate that they didn't even get, like a month's worth of the offense at full power at any point this season. But it isn't necessarily, a crushing or devastating or taking them out of playoff contention blow by any means. If we look back to the first 2 weeks of the season when Le'Veon Bell was out via his suspension, D'Angelo Williams was the starting running back in place of him, formerly of the Carolina Panthers, former first-round draft pick, who, outside of injury issues, has had a fairly impressive, productive NFL career as a running back. He ran for over 100 yards in both games, I want to say, and touchdowns in each of those games. He was a top fantasy running back those first 2 weeks. So if you have the chance to pick up D'Angelo Williams on your fantasy football team, run out and do that immediately, as he is going to be the number one guy there, and I see no reason to not expect similarly productive numbers to what he did in the first 2 games of the season, as well as to what Le'Veon Bell has done since his return in Week 3. But, every week we've got major Pro Bowl caliber names on the injury report, and not just, he's dinged up, out for the season, out for 6 to 10 weeks, out for months to the whole year. And that is something that has got to change in the NFL, because honestly, if you want to know, you don't even need to follow football. If you want to know who's good and who's not good, or who's having a good season, I should say, and who's not having a good season, you don't need to watch a game, you don't need to watch a SportsCenter, nothing. All you need to do is type in NFL injury report in a search engine and go through all 32 teams and read the names on their injury report. That'll tell you who's having a good season and who's not having a good season. Plain and simple. The healthy teams are the teams that are playing good right now. The teams that aren't healthy, they're the teams that are struggling. That's what it comes down to at this point in what is the history of football. And that's a horrible, horrible thing to decide who's winning and losing games, who's winning and losing championships. Don't you want everyone at their best determining who's the best of the best? Like, isn't that the ideal way to present the product? But you can't do that if every week you've got at least one key player on a team going out for the year with an injury. At least one player, at least one key player of a team every week is getting an injury that takes him out for anywhere from 2 months to the whole season. And so, like I said, we get to the playoffs, we get to the end of the regular season, we get to the playoffs, we get to the Super Bowl, and it's all being decided by the injury report. It's not being decided by schematics and execution and talent. It's being decided by health. And it's only going to get worse, and it is going to have a negative impact on the NFL if they cannot find a way to limit or minimize player injury. And I've been beating that drum for forever now. It's quite simple. There are a few rule tweaks that need to be made yet. That's another story for another time. But that's the least of that's like 10 to 25%, somewhere in there. at least 75% of the solution is in enhanced technology in the equipment and rules as far as wearing the equipment. I don't care if it takes a tenth of a second off of your 40 time. You have to wear thigh pads and knee pads and hip pads. You have to. Any ball carriers, such any running backs, quarterbacks, or wide receivers need to wear elbow pads. They also need to wear a rib protector because they're taking hits. Like helmets, obviously. You can't tell me that we can create materials that can withstand the demands of breaking through the atmosphere and being in outer space, but we can't figure out how to make some sort of hat a person can wear that truly protects their head from concussion and injury, yet still gives them full range of visibility and motion. I mean, come on. This is where the focus needs to be on this issue. It's the only thing that's going to work, and it will work. But if the NFL doesn't get serious about it and start taking my advice, again, Raj, thanks for listening. Hope you're taking your weekly notes, like we talked about, back in July. But it is going to impact the bottom line of the NFL at some point in time negatively, if it isn't already. And like I said, they need to get on that, make that top priority this offseason. Player health, injury minimalization, and injury reduction. That needs to be priority number one for the NFL this coming offseason in their meetings. All right, so there's all of our spew NFL kind of league-wide topics and going-ons. We'll get to our purple vein here right now, and then after that we will do our league-wide recap of last week's games and preview of this week's games. Then we'll dive quickly into some college football after that. All right, so our purple vein segment this week. Now, I apologize. Normally, I am able to not only watch the game in live time from start to finish every play, but I am also able to go back after the fact and rewatch the film critically, give players grades based on their performance from a play-by-play basis, and really let you know who in fact played quite well, who didn't play quite well, and give you the real assessment and not just what people misinterpret from a box score or what people want to believe based off of their fandom. But I was unable to watch the game in its entirety. I listened to the whole first half on the radio, enjoying the silver god that is the radio voice of the Minnesota Vikings, one Paul Allen, on KFan. And then after halftime at third quarter, I was able to watch the whole third quarter. And then I missed just a little bit of the fourth quarter, but was able to watch from about 8 minutes in the fourth quarter to go until the remainder of the game, which was really by far the best part to watch. Vikings came back and won on the road. They did not play impressive at all. Not what I heard, not what I saw, box score statistics, but I wasn't able to record it either, so no film grades on the players this week. Again, my apologies. So all I got to go this week for the Purple Vein is based off of what I heard on the radio, based off of what I saw on the television, and then based off of the statistics in the box score when all was said and done. But so a quick recap of how the game played out. Vikings did score the first touchdown and finish the first quarter on top 7-3. However, the second quarter, flipped that, and the Bears scored 7 points and the Vikings scored 3. So going into halftime, we were tied at 10. Neither team looking overly impressive, but the Bears somehow looking slightly more impressive, probably because they're the underdog and they're hanging in there. Then the Bears come out and score the only points of the third quarter with a Robbie Gould, I just like saying Goulet, but Robbie Gould field goal, and so that put the Bears up 13-10. Bears scored another 7 points in the fourth quarter, but the Vikings scored 13 points in the fourth quarter with the game-winning possession as time was expiring in about a minute left, somewhere in there. Again, I'm going on all memory. I wasn't able to record it and rewatch the film like I usually do every week. But they ended up winning 23-20, their second consecutive road win, both being against division opponents. And with the Packers losing on Sunday night, we are now one game out of first place in the NFC North. So that is all very good. So since the end result is good, the situation's good, we'll start the player reviews negatively, not positively, not with the goods, what they did right. We'll start with the bads. Whenever you win, if you're a coach, okay, whenever the general coaching philosophy, when your team's winning, Charlie Sheen winning, you focus on the negative first. Then, after you're done with that, you reinforce the positive that has made you successful. You don't ever want to forget that. You close with that. But you start. You don't want to start with the positive because everybody's already confident and feeling good. That's how you lose focus and see a drop in work ethic as well from time to time. But even though they won, there were definitely negatives to take away from the game. Outside of the end of the halves, Teddy never looks good. Horribly inaccurate again this last week, as he has been the majority of the season. Diggs bailing him out. He's in the positives. Teddy definitely falls in the negatives category. He just continues to not progress, or if he is progressing, it's extremely slowly and in very small steps. So number one thing, I think now at this point, I have seen, and I mentioned this last week, I have seen, as I commented, a little bit of progression and improvement in his pocket awareness and presence, as opposed to relocating where he's set up to make his throw. I fear that this might be leading to the the increased inaccuracy that we saw this last week, because it goes back to the bad pro day that dropped him to where the Vikings could get him in the first place. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn on that pro day, and it was all blamed on the fact that he wasn't wearing the gloves that he always wears when he plays football. For some inexplicable reason, he wasn't wearing them that day. It is quite possible that Teddy is the type of thrower that can only throw to a spot from a spot with accuracy. Not everybody can throw to a spot while relocating their spot. And that just might be something that he's always going to struggle with. I hope that's not the case, because he does seem to throw the short to intermediate passes while on the run fairly accurately for the most part. So, but throwing the ball down the field, man, his accuracy, the farther he has to throw it, the more inaccurate he is. And it's a big, it gets really noticeable really fast. Decision making has been decent. The poise and the execution when it's on the line and it's go time is phenomenal. So there is